Good morning, everyone. Let's go ahead and kick off our very first session, which is a roundtable discussion on the ins and outs of ABLE accounts. My name is Rachel Fackender, and as John mentioned, I will serve as the panel moderator. So during our time together, we're going to cover a very high-level overview of ABLE accounts. Who is eligible, how it works, and why an account is right for you, your loved one, or maybe those that you serve. So I am, of course, joined by John Finch, who is the director of ABLE United. I'm also joined by Jen Sikora, mother to Sean and a founding member of the National ABLE Act. And we're also joined lastly by Katherine Davey, mother to May and a widely respected elder law and guardianship attorney in Central Florida. But before we get started and really dive into this conversation, we'd like to run a quick poll to see how many of our attendees have an ABLE account or perhaps serve as an account administrator. So we're going to go ahead and launch this poll and give you about a couple of seconds, 30 seconds to answer that, and then we'll share the results. Awesome. We see those results rolling in. We'll give it about 10 more seconds. Awesome. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close that poll. We're going to share the results here. So looks like a little bit of an even split, which is really interesting. So 52% saying yes, they are either a current ABLE United account holder or an account administrator, and then no, 48%. So very fascinating, and we welcome anyone and everyone, whether you be a current account holder or a prospective account holder. So thank you so much again for joining us. But now we're going to run just another quick second poll to those that perhaps aren't an account holder yet or account administrator to see exactly how familiar you are with ABLE United. So again, we'll give everyone about 30 seconds to answer this poll.
And I see they're not letting us vote.
Well, we are the experts.
You could have thrown your numbers off on account holders just a little bit.
Awesome. We got about 5 more seconds. Excellent. So I'm going to share these results now, and it looks like 43% of you say somewhat familiar. So perhaps you're joining us today to learn a little bit more and then decide, hopefully, to open up your very own ABLE United account. So very fascinating. And again, thank you all for participating in our poll. And now we're going to go ahead and move on to our conversation, which I'm so very excited about. So for anyone who isn't already aware, so those that selected somewhat familiar, since our official launch in July of 2016, we're coming up on our 5th birthday. ABLE United has provided thousands of Floridians of all ages and disability types a new way to save through tax-advantaged savings and investment accounts. So an account allows for the saving of private funds that do not generally impact eligibility for current or future benefits. But what people don't know is that it all started with a group of parents about 15 years ago. So Jen, I'd like to open it up with you. You were one of those parents. Can you take us back to the original discussions and shed some light on how ABLE accounts came to be?
Yes, Rachel, thanks so much. In 2005, my family was living outside of Washington, D.C. At the time, my son, who has Down syndrome, was 2 years old, and I was working with a group of volunteers who were looking for a way to make a difference for our kids. And we sat around a kitchen table one night and talked about the challenges that our kids were going to face that maybe their siblings were not going to be faced with. And one of our dads says, I have 2 daughters. One has a college savings account, but my daughter with Down syndrome, I'm not sure what her needs are going to be. And that's really how ABLE accounts got started. We said we need to be able to start saving now when our kids are 2 or 3 for whatever their future needs may be. We are not sure what those are, if they'll be able to go into a college program, or they might have significant medical needs, or might need help with housing issues. And we took our case to Congress. We met with our legislators. It took us over 10 years of working with other parents and families, but in 2014, the ABLE Accounts Act was signed into law. And in July of 2016, my son Sean became the first ABLE United account holder in the state of Florida.
That's so amazing. And we've loved to really get to know you and Sean and your entire family over the last couple of years. But John, I'd really like to get your perspective a little bit on the importance of the ABLE Act and how it works here in the state of Florida. So thinking through eligibility, how individuals can actually enroll, and then also how it works with benefits.
Thanks, Rachel. And as Jen was saying, the Achieving a Better Life Experience Act was created to allow states to set up these tax advantage savings and investment accounts for the first time. And what is unique is that each state kind of set them up differently. Here in the state of Florida, it was actually put under the Florida Prepaid College Board. So the same entity that's helped over 1 million families save for higher education expenses is now helping the disability community save for a better life experience. So who's eligible? Individuals who have a significant disability that occurred prior to age 26, regardless of their age now, qualify for an ABLE account. These are individuals who might be receiving supplemental security income, Social Security disability insurance. If they're not receiving either of those government benefits, it's a type of disability that's going to last for a while. It's most often going to require additional medical appointments or additional treatment. So it could be stuff like intellectual developmental that individuals are born with or diagnosed early on. It could be something that occurs a little later, like some of the mental health types of diagnosis. Those are all types of diagnoses and the severity. And you can always check out ableunited.com to get some more specifics and see if you or the loved one in your family qualifies for an ABLE account. Enrollment's pretty quick and easy. It's done all online. We service this website to all Floridians, and so it just provides an easy way to go online, create the account, access the account, and then begin saving. During the enrollment process, you'll get to choose if you want this to be a savings or investment tool, and give people the flexibility to use it how they see fit. And the great thing is, one of those key advantages is that the money in the ABLE account and even taken out of the ABLE account don't impact eligibility benefits such as SSI or Medicaid. So it's pretty unique, and then that those funds can grow tax-free as well. So it's overall just an amazing program.
Awesome. Thank you for that overview, John. Now, Katherine, I want to shift to you because initially when ABLE accounts came to be, you were hesitant. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey to opening an account for your daughter, May?
So I'm a little bit of a fence sitter. I've been an estate planning attorney now for more than 27 years. And as I tell the story, our life changed completely. And my work as a lawyer went from being a job and a career to being a calling. 7 years ago when our daughter, May, who, like Sean, has Down syndrome, was born, right? All of a sudden now I walk the walk as well. But I come to that place as a parent also with the perspective of an estate planning attorney for more than 20 years at that point. So when I first met with Jen and several of the folks who were key to getting the ABLE Act passed, I was like, we've already got special needs trust. What do we need this for? And so it took a lot of conversations, and it took Will Thompson coming down to, I was speaking with him, and all of a sudden the big light bulb went off, and I'm like, I can use it with special needs trust. I mean, it can do its own thing as well, but as an estate planning attorney, I was trying to get it to fit within the framework of what I knew. So, but even then, I got to say, I wasn't the quickest to get my ABLE account set up. As I tell the story, a dear friend of mine who's an attorney who does what I do called me and said, hey, how long did it take you to set up May's account? I have a client I need to help. And I'm like, okay, give me 15 minutes. I'll call you back. And indeed, it took about 10 or 15 minutes, and I got the account set up, and there we go. So now I preach the greatness of how special needs trusts work together with ABLE. I was talking to a client about it yesterday. So
That's awesome. I love hearing that story because I feel like a lot of parents probably are a little bit hesitant at first of, they've been told for so long that saving isn't an option, right? And so at Able United, we've been kind of tasked with shifting that mentality that, individuals can indeed start to save with an Able account. And so I love that we've been able to give our attendees a little bit of a basic understanding of ABLE accounts, but I do want to spend some time diving a little bit deeper into how it works. So John, I'm going to kick this one back over to you. Can you tell us a little bit about how can you request or withdraw money from an ABLE account? And also kind of talk about a little bit who can actually contribute to an account, and are there any limits to how much an individual can contribute?
Thanks, Rachel. And kind of adding to what Katherine was saying, I remember before the program launched, we were sitting with focus groups and understanding. And one of the comments that resonates with me still is that people were like, I don't know what to think since this was never a reality to begin with. So it really is a paradigm shift on don't save, and now you can save. And so how accounts work when it comes to requesting money or even putting money in the account. The great thing is when you open the account, you're going to connect a checking or a savings account. And that's primarily how you're going to put money into the account. And then when you make a withdrawal request, it's going to go back to that connected checking or savings account. And then those funds can be used for what they call qualified disability expenses, which is very broad. And even the final regulations that came out that govern how states should run ABLE programs states that it should be construed broadly. So things that are related to housing, education, even daily living expenses. So think of grocery shopping or paying your cell phone bill. So anything that's going to help an individual either maintain or improve their health, independence, or quality of life is a qualified disability expense. Now, there are some limits. Individuals are limited to putting $15,000 per calendar year from all sources. So if they put $10,000 of their own money, mom and dad can only chip in $5,000 for the rest of the year. But it is pretty cool because, with the idea of it takes a village sometimes, that you can set up a gifting page that allows other individuals, family, friends, even organizations to contribute to your ABLE account to really allow you to save for a better life experience.
Thank you for sharing that, John. So as account administrators and parents, I'd love for Jen and Katherine to share a little bit about how they're utilizing Sean and May's ABLE accounts. This is one of my favorite conversations. We love getting to hear from account holders themselves how they are utilizing their accounts. Are they saving for everyday expenses? Are they saving for maybe a big ticket item? I think of John and I's really good friend, Sean, here in Tallahassee. When he opened his ABLE account, he knew exactly what he was saving for, and that was his first car. And so it's always really fun to hear from individuals, whether that be account holders or account administrators themselves, on how they're utilizing their accounts. So Jen, I want to start with you to hear a little bit about how you all are using Sean's account.
Well, Sean just turned 18. So he has gotten to the point where we need to be thinking really hard about, now that he's an adult and could be moving out and maybe going to school, how are we going to use that money for him? His account right now, we've left it just in the investment phase. We do a monthly contribution. We put in about what it would be for our family to go out and have dinner. And that is his monthly contribution. I have a very long to-do list every week. And putting money into an investment account is not on the top of my list every week. But doing that monthly contribution really helps my husband and I to know, okay, that's already done. Check that box off. We're finished with that. He received an additional medical diagnosis a few years ago that we know is going to impact him for the rest of his life. So right now, his money is just going to stay and grow in that account for whatever he might need in the next few years.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And now I want to kick it over to Katherine to tell us a little bit about how she is utilizing the accounts to save for May's future.
We are following the Gen model. So far, May's only 7. So thankfully, my husband and I are covering all of her expenses. So we have it set up the same way. So that auto debits right into the ABLE account every month. And I get the confirmation that the money's gone through. But we've just invested the money for her future, for whatever she needs in the future. So we just continue to stockpile that money because we know there'll be lots of needs in the future, whatever it is she ends up doing. So that's the benefit of 7 so far.
That's exactly right. And I think that everyone's on a little bit of a different journey in terms of what they're saving for. Like I said, whether it be, we have some account holders that are utilizing it for everyday expenses. So for things like rent, transportation, maybe even weekly groceries. But then we also have individuals that are saving for some of those bigger ticket items. So thinking about a car or maybe a house, or I know a couple of our account holders that have saved for a wheelchair accessible van, or maybe even it's something like assistive technology or education. So I really think the sky is the limit in terms of kind of what an account can be utilized for. So I know John covered some of those qualified disability expenses, but really, as he mentioned, they are meant to be construed very broadly. And so as long as they are ultimately being used to benefit the individual with a disability, it's gonna, pass the test of being a qualified disability expense. John, is there anything else that you want to add on there?
Yeah, I was gonna bring up a quick note. So we had the fortune, I think it was 2 years ago, Katherine, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe 3 years ago now, time flies. We did a photo shoot down in Orlando. And so you might have seen Katherine and Jen. I think Jen was in a photo shoot prior to that too. So you might have seen their pictures on some of our social media ads or around the thing. But what was unique with the photo shoot we did with Katherine is we had a variety of people come in, and we had like these bubbles that people could hold up and then write down what they were saving for. And I remember we had a gentleman, is him and his sister, and I think he was in his 50s, if I'm not mistaken, and he always had this lifelong dream of going to Jamaica. And so I need to follow up with them to see if that reality ever came about. It just goes to show that part of the ABLE account is it gives people opportunities, right? It's an opportunity that may never existed before, whether that be transitioning out of school. We were chatting before, Katherine's in that stage. You got one daughter leaving the house, hopefully, but that's going to cost money. She's going off, and so whether that's going off to college or going to live on your own in an apartment, or maybe this is a retirement account, and so it's just really cool as the stories we start seeing coming from a lot of our account holders on how they're saving and investing in an account. So that was my additional 2 cents.
Well, thank you for that. And before we continue the conversation, I do want to encourage all of our attendees to utilize the question and answers box. I see a couple coming in, and I know we are working to answer those in real time, but we're also going to take some here with our panelists as well. So again, we do encourage you, if you have a question, whether it be general or very specific to your own unique circumstance, put it in the question and answers box and we'll get that answered. So I want to talk a little bit in regards to how an ABLE United account can be utilized as more than just a savings account, right? Because it is a savings and an investment account. So John, I'm going to bring you back here and put you on the spot to talk a little bit more about the breakdown of the investment options that we at ABLE United offer. Can you give us a quick rundown of the pre-designed options and their benefits?
Yeah, so when this program was created, we really wanted to give individuals the flexibility to utilize the ABLE account how they see fit. So we have pre-designed portfolios. So those that are interested in actually investing their funds. So, Jen and Katherine, I'm not going to ask your specific breakdown of how you're investing, but my assumption is you're probably doing something a little more risky because you're not using the funds now. So maybe the moderate or growth portfolio, right? Just assumptions.
Well, and it made me think, now I got to go back and double check, right? Like I set it up. It was set it and forget it. And I'm like, I don't know, it's doing fine. I see the return. It's doing okay, but I'm not sure. So my homework later today would be to double check that.
There you go. So we have pre-designed portfolios, conservative, moderate, and growth based on somebody's risk tolerance and savings time horizon. And then we have the FDIC savings portion. So people that, don't want to be invested in the market, those are option as well. And then we have kind of the do it yourself, where you can check from those various pre-designed portfolios or the actual underlying investment funds. And the good thing is it's not John Finch that's managing your money. It's Vanguard, BlackRock, these organizations and these businesses that manage trillions of dollars are actually investing your funds. So don't worry about me. I'm social worker background. You don't want me investing your money, all right? So that's good to know that you have that option and that flexibility. And what's cool is when you take the money out. So let's say, hypothetically, 50% of your money is going into the savings account and 50% is going into a conservative portfolio, and you want to make a withdrawal. Well, you can choose, I want money just from that savings account because I like where my investments are, and you can do that. So it gives individuals that flexibility. But that's kind of a rundown of how people can use this as a savings or investment tool, or even both.
Thank you for that. So kind of talking in that same realm of financial planning and investment, I'm curious, what has worked best for your families? So Jen, let's start with you here.
So when we opened Sean's account, he was only 14. So like Katherine said, we were taking care of all of his expenses since he was a minor. We decided, John hit it exactly right. We did choose a little bit more risk strategy, and we've balanced Sean's investment because we really wanted to give that investment the time to grow, since we knew that we were not going to need it until he was much older. And we've been very pleased with what we've been able to do, just putting in a little bit every month. We do occasionally get friends and family who will also contribute to the account on a, for a birthday or special event as well. So we've really just kind of put that in and let it grow while he is still under our roof and doing everything. But he's getting to be an adult now. He's about ready to go, I think.
So you make a good point of how other individuals besides yourself and your family can help Sean save. So John, I'm curious, can you elaborate and share a little bit more about how individuals can save with the help of family and friends, and maybe highlight our gifting page?
Yeah, so that was the whole purpose of Able Accounts and this is how the Special Needs Trust, which hopefully you'll stick around, you'll hear that presentation from a elder law attorney about Special Needs Trust. But usually when you're going down the Special Needs Trust, it's either first party or third party, right? It's either whose money is it? Able Accounts are unique in that it can be both people. It could be the beneficiary putting their own money in. It could be a family or friend contributing to their account. Primarily, there's two primary ways to get funds in the account: an ACH contribution from a connected account, or if somebody sets up a gifting page, kind of a unique little GoFundMe page where they can set a savings goal and they could share that out on social media or to family and friends. And it allows them to make either an ACH or debit contribution into their account. Also, individuals can submit a check to an account. And we have forms available on our website. You can also reach out to our customer service number to have them assist with you in making a contribution. So there's multiple ways, and the same for taking the money out. You would log on. If you want a check to be sent, you can request a check to be sent to you or a third party. Those forms are available online, and you can also call customer service to assist with that as well.
Awesome. So I want to give Katherine a chance to weigh in too, to share a little bit about how her and her family approach financial planning and investment when it comes to planning for May's future.
Yeah, so we started this early, thankfully. That was the benefit of the walk that I walk. May has a prepaid college plan as well. We did something a little different for her. But we set up a prepaid college plan for her, knowing that she'd likely stay closer rather than her sister, her older sister, who's going off to Philadelphia, thousands of miles away, to make her way. We assumed she'd stay closer, so we did that in partnership with the ABLE account. Had some long conversations about how long we're all going to work, having the benefit of this amazing little girl change our lives at the age we were when she did. And so we've set aside money in the ABLE account, among other things, to make sure that she's there. She's got money and she's protected. And of course, as the estate planning attorney, I've done, estate planning things as well. I've done a special needs trust as part of our estate planning for her. And again, I have to say, shoemaker's children. It was my sister who came in to do her estate planning, and she goes, well, I'll just do what you did for May to make sure that we provide for her as well. And I'm like, the shame. Okay, so I'll draft yours and then I'll draft mine. So, but the good news is it's all done. She's taken care of. So
that's awesome. Well, I love hearing that story, and I want to open it up to question and answers a little bit too. We're getting several questions in the chat here. So let's kind of start breaking them down a little bit and taking some of them here live. So the first one that I actually want to talk through a little bit is, John, if you could give a little bit of an update. I'm seeing some questions about the ABLE Age Adjustment Act, and if you could share where that stands and what that means should it come to fruition.
All right. So as we said early on, the eligibility range for a person to qualify an ABLE account is that disability had to occur prior to age 26. Once again, doesn't matter their age now, but that disability diagnosis occurred prior to age 26. And when the ABLE Act passed, that was kind of put on there just to help with the predictions of what it was going to cost to establish this. It really, it's almost like they pulled it out of thin air. And so there's been a movement to really adjust that from 26 to 46 to increase the amount of people that are eligible for an ABLE account. So for example, if you got in a serious car accident at 27 and are now quadriplegic, you would not qualify for an ABLE account because it happened after the age of 26. And we see a lot of mental health diagnoses the same way, where it's a range where if you got diagnosed at 28, now you don't qualify for an ABLE account. So there's been some legislation that has been presented every year in Congress to adjust that age from 26 to 46. The good news is that this year, out of all the previous years that we've been tracking this, there seems to finally be momentum and overall receptive of the change. It's just a matter of finding the right bill that's moving through the process to get attached to hopefully make that change. But we're ready and we're watching it, and hopefully that reality will happen this year, if not early next year.
Well, I know we all are certainly keeping our fingers and toes crossed that this does come to fruition, because I think they're estimating that about 6 to 8 million people nationwide could be impacted by this. And that ultimately means that they too can have an ABLE account. So seeing a lot of other questions that are specific to qualified disability expenses. One question in particular asks, what are examples of what cannot be paid from an ABLE account? So we'll share that there are what John and I like to call the big four, and that is primarily tobacco, alcohol, gambling, and simply giving the funds away. And so it's important to know that if funds in an ABLE account are spent on what are those non-qualified disability expenses, they will be penalized in terms of their, John, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 10%?
Correct. And once again, the IRS is tracking your total amount of withdrawals for the year. So for example, once you make a withdrawal from an ABLE account, it's going to trigger a 1099 QA. It's a fancy tax form that basically says you made a withdrawal from your ABLE account. Here's how much of that withdrawal was earnings. Because remember, these are tax-free earnings. And what they're going to say is if you took, let's say, $1,000 out of your ABLE account this year, did you have $1,000 in qualified disability expenses for the year? And remember, that's very broad. So it could be, yes, I paid for housing expenses. Yes, I went out to eat with some friends, because that's going to, because remember, it's improving the life, right? Not just maintaining, but also improving. So if you can justify that, keep receipts. And most people don't have an issue with coming up with expenses, whether that be I went to the doctor's, or I went grocery shopping, or I took an Uber downtown and went to the museum. All those would be qualified disability expenses.
That's right. And I see another question of, can you pay for going out to dinner with your ABLE funds? Absolutely. Yes, you certainly can. And I want John to share a little bit about how you can actually put funds on our ABLE prepaid card.
Yeah. So was it last year or 2 years ago now? Time flies, I'm telling you. We launched a prepaid debit card for our ABLE account that individuals can sign up for. And this provides even more flexibility. And as Katherine was alluding to, a lot of people with special needs trusts who fund their ABLE account with that special needs trust like having that flexibility of a debit card, because then they can say, let's load $500 on it, and that's their spend money. Whether it's like I can drop them off at the store and they can do their own shopping. Thinking of clothes shopping is only a couple months away for us that have school-aged children. Where you take advantage of that tax-free holiday whenever it is that just got passed. But now people will have that prepaid debit card, and it's pretty cool to see people are using it for transportation, shopping, on Amazon online purchases. I see a lot of those that come through. So it's pretty cool that people are able to use a Visa debit card wherever Visa is accepted.
Absolutely. It just, really provides that increased flexibility. And I also think that we've also heard from several account holders that that's how they're teaching their children how to budget and how to, really make sure that we're going to put X amount on this prepaid card for this month. This is what you have. It's kind of your allowance, which is really fun to hear that they're kind of utilizing it as a learning experience. Couple other questions, and I want to open this one particular question up because we are going to be having a more lengthy presentation on this coming up here soon. But an individual is asking, and Katherine, you're welcome to chime in here, of if I have a special needs trust and an ABLE account, how do I use one and the other? Is it worth having both?
Absolutely. It's critical to have both. And I know Travis will jump all over this because this is a favorite topic for all of us, but it's actually really important to have both. And the client I was talking to yesterday had a special needs trust for their sister. And I said, where's your ABLE account? And they didn't have one. So I encouraged them to get an ABLE account set up because, as I explained to them, there are expenses that ABLE accounts can pay that special needs trust should not. But the special needs trust could pay into the ABLE account, and the ABLE account can then pay out. As long as it's done properly, it doesn't affect their government benefits running the money through the ABLE account. So it's absolutely critical, and it's something I press all of my clients, whether they're setting up a special needs trust and that's appropriate, or they're not. They don't, for whatever reason, they don't need a special needs trust, but ABLE is absolutely still appropriate.
Yeah, and I think that we hear that so often too of, there's several individuals who have both, and they're actually utilizing their special needs trust to fund their ABLE account, which is great.
Absolutely, it's critical. And I'm now routinely working with clients who have old special needs trusts, update them to add that ABLE language.
Right, absolutely.
Enabling language. So.
And so speaking of, an individual that perhaps is older, can you utilize an ABLE account to pay for their final expenses, things like funeral and burial? John, do you want to cover that question?
Yes. What is unique is that they clarified that, yes, you can use this for funeral and burial. And even as post-death, you could use this as to help pay for funeral and burial expenses. So it's like I said, wide range. So whether that's prepaying those expenses or having the funds set aside to cover those expenses, if something happens to the beneficiary, is an allowable expense.
And I think that's a really excellent segue into, I'm seeing several of these questions in the question and answers box of Medicaid recovery. And I know that that's a really important topic, and it's something that we get asked probably after special needs trust. It's about Medicaid recovery. So John, do you want to cover this question as well? And then, feel free for any of our other panelists to chime in.
I know Jen and Katherine can say, I know this was one of the early sticking points from a lot of families and a lot of organizations, especially in the Down syndrome groups across the state, where there was concern, where I'm putting money aside. It's the money that is the family's money, the parents' money, and then God forbid something happens to the beneficiary, the state's going to come in and just take all those funds. And so we wanted to clarify that this wasn't a new avenue for Medicaid recovery. Instead, that we passed state legislation that says any leftover funds in the ABLE account after all outstanding qualified disability expenses are paid would go to the estate of that beneficiary. Now, that our state may be subject to Medicaid recovery, but there's a whole lot of rules behind that. They have to be 55 and older and no surviving spouse. So there's a lot more legs, but we wanted to clarify that this wasn't a new form of Medicaid recovery. So thankfully advocates and our state legislator got that enacted. So we don't have to worry about Medicaid recovery out of an ABLE account directly.
Yeah, so that's the odd place I sit, that my very first job out of law school was doing Medicaid estate recovery, right? So I know that world. So that was actually one of the biggest issues for me. It's sort of a weird little niche problem, but I'm like, no, why would I put money into something that Medicaid can get paid out of if it was a third-party special needs trust or essentially a third-party account? No, thank you. So I loved when that got changed. That was a game changer for me. And that's part of the reason why I'm still am such a big advocate of the ABLE account. And then talking to people to make sure they understand you can avoid Medicaid payback, even out of their estate. You just got to plan for it. Avoidance is okay, evasion is bad. So.
And that's a great point. And I'm really liking this one question that I'm seeing here, because I think it's relevant to both you, Jen, and Katherine. For a toddler age or a younger age beneficiary, what are the advantages of an ABLE account versus just giving money to the parents of the beneficiary to help with expenses? You guys both, right? Sean at that point was 12, 13 years old. Katherine May was, I don't know, 2 maybe, or younger when an account was opened. What do you guys feel like are the advantages of starting early?
For us, it was that we were going to have even more time to put money in. Sean is the account holder of his account. He's the owner. I'm the administrator on the account for him, because when it was established, he was not old enough to do that himself. And now that he's 18 and we have guardian advocacy for him, we can still be in charge of that for him. But starting early has given us the time to, one, protect that money for him. If it was in our regular checking savings account and it was money that was intended for him, it would be too easy for it to be used for other things and all of a sudden it'd be gone. Also, if he had his own savings account in his name, it would be considered an asset when we go to apply for SSI eligibility and then Medicaid as well. It would count towards that $2,000 asset limit that you have to be under to be eligible for those programs.
Yeah, so for me, it was just part of, although I've laughed that I missed other things, that was something I did pretty quickly once I got it set up. And then I knew I wanted that prepaid college plan in place for her as well as part of our overall plan. So that was, we did it immediately to make sure that that money would be there for her, right? And that if other people wanted to make gifts, they could, and they knew for sure it was just going to go to her. And gifts that we've received for her, we've put in there as well. So,
all excellent points. And I'm seeing other questions here too, and I'm not sure if either one of you have run into this specific situation. And if not, John, I will hand this over to you. But an individual is asking, have you all come up against the $100,000 limit for Social Security income? For those that are unaware, so each in an Enable account, you can save up to $15,000. So from all sources per calendar year. Now, in the total lifespan of an Enable account, $418,000 can be saved into an account. However, if you are receiving supplemental security income, you can only save in the total lifespan of the account, if you're on benefits, up to $100,000. And this individual is asking, how do you manage the funds to keep it under the $100,000?
or to any of us? Okay, so the answer would be, it can go over $100,000. It just starts to affect their benefits at that point, right? So you just like you would if they were on other regular government benefits, you just have to monitor what the balance of that account is and spend it on the various things they need that are allowable expenses. I mean, that's the benefit. Or, it's also okay if it's more important that you're saving the money to let it reduce the government benefits. That's just a choice that you're really personally as a family going to have to make. Which is more important, saving the money and reducing their benefits, or spending the money on things they may need that you may be covering right now? So I did also just want to point out, one of the questions I saw in the chat was, is there a way to determine how much is owed to Medicaid at this time? And the answer is not that I'm aware of. Medicaid doesn't just take calls for, gee, what's my balance today? So that's something that would have to be determined after the person's lifetime.
Good question. I'll add to that too, is it's important to know the $100,000 limit is specific to supplemental security income beneficiaries. And so that's that $2,000 resource. That's the monthly check that helps pay for some basic living expenses and housing. It can be up to 700, and I think it's 80 something now. And what would happen though is if you surpass the 100,000 and it's your ABLE account causing you to go above the resource limit, your SSI would be suspended, but you still become eligible for Medicaid. So Medicaid wouldn't be impacted, just that monthly SSI benefit. But once again, the whole idea of planning and like, as Katherine was saying, balancing between what's more important, having significant funds in the ABLE account or that monthly check to help pay. So you have to kind of make that balancing and what best choice for your family.
And we'll be going more in depth into how ABLE accounts work with public benefits later on this morning. We will have a representative from the Social Security Administration and the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. So we hope that you'll tune in for that session as well. But still seeing so many questions come through. So thank you guys for being so engaged and asking questions. This is a good one. And it is, if someone is working, can they participate in a 401k through the employer and still save in an ABLE account? So John, will you tell our attendees a little bit about Able to Work?
Yes, I'll talk a little about able to work, and then I'll throw out persons working with disabilities legislation from 2 years ago and here in the state, which I think is a little unknown secret. But so there is a provision called able to work that allows beneficiaries who are working and not saving for retirement. So they don't have a 401k or an IRA or a Roth IRA. So no kind of either employment or retirement account. Those individuals can contribute above the 15,000 annual contribution limit up to the federal poverty limit of a single household, which I believe is a little over 12,000 and some change, 12,460 or 490. And so individuals could hit that maximum of 15, and that can actually contribute above that to a total 27,490 if they are working and not saving for retirement. What is also important to know is individuals may want to take advantage of that able to work provision without even reaching the 15,000 level. Our system kind of tracks it in two different buckets. But then also you may take advantage of the saver's credit, which could reduce somebody's tax burden. So, talk to a tax professional, see what's best for you. I mentioned this working persons with disabilities. So a couple years ago, they amended two of our big Medicaid waivers, or basically any home and community-based waiver. We'll talk a little bit more about this in an upcoming public benefit session. But the iBudget waiver that's managed by the Agency for Persons with Disabilities and Long-Term Care, Medicaid has restrictions on how much resources and income, but they did pass a provision where individuals that are working could actually make a significant amount more money and not have their Medicaid benefits impacted. And I have to pull up the amount, but it was like 40,000 that they could actually earn before having their Medicaid benefits. Now, if they're on Social Security or especially SSI benefits, yes, those would be potentially lost, but it does provide a way to earn more, work more, and keep those Medicaid benefits. Especially, I'm thinking of people that require that daily assistance or some kind of routine care, now have an opportunity to earn more.
Thank you for that. And also seeing some questions about 529 college rollovers. That also is something, I guess, 2-3 years ago now at this point that we were able to implement. So John, do you also want to answer that question?
Man, this is like the John show. I have these two lovely experts here. Well, as Katherine was saying, part of her plan is to have a college savings account. And what's unique with ABLE is that individuals can roll over unused 529 funds into an ABLE account. It does count towards that $15,000 contribution limit, but it's a much broader range of who can roll over those funds. So it's based on 529 law, which is different than 529A, which is the ABLE law. It says it could be a brother, a sister, an uncle, an aunt, a cousin, a mom, a dad. So you might have a family member that's like, I got leftover 529 funds. I didn't utilize them all, or it was for me and I'm not going to utilize it. You could start rolling those over to an ABLE account up to that 15,000 per limit. So it would count towards that limit. But we see families, I've worked through a handful of individuals who had a Florida prepaid account or a Florida 529 account and said, okay, we want to move this over. How do we do it? And we're able to assist with that. But that is the flexibility that people can utilize those funds.
And we do that routinely in guardianships and guardian advocacies. We see it come up a lot, where parents, when their child was very small, set up a 529 account. The child has a disability that qualifies for a guardian advocacy or guardianship, and that's the process. Part of the process is to transition that from a 529 to an ABLE account.
Absolutely. And I also want to just quickly put Jen on the spot here because Jen is one of our ABLE United ambassadors. And for those that are looking for an opportunity to give back and to help educate individuals about ABLE accounts, Jen, what would you say to them about why they should become an ABLE United ambassador?
The biggest challenge that I have found when talking to people about ABLE accounts is that they just don't have the information. You know, if I don't go out and do a presentation and talk to people or meet them at an event, we are inundated with information on taking care of our kids, how to provide for them, what is best for them. So getting to the ABLE account information sometimes is a challenge. I love being a brand ambassador for ABLE United. Obviously, I'm passionate about this, having worked on it since 2005. It's one of my greatest joys that I can go and tell other families, this is something good for you. It came from parents just like you who were looking to make a change for their children. We are used to having to fight for everything, whether it be benefits or IEPs or any services for our kids. This is one thing you don't have to give something else up to have something positive for your kid. And that's really the reason that I love being a brand ambassador and talking to other parents about it. And I say it all the time, I can go and talk to one person at an event, and then I figured that's exactly why I've been put there. Just talk to one person and I'm happy.
That's right. And so if you are a current account holder or thinking about becoming one, or of course an account administrator as well, we do have our ABLE United Brand Ambassador program. And now that in-person events are slowly but surely starting to kick back in, if you are interested in helping to spread the word and help us be boots on the ground to share all the goodness about ABLE United, we encourage you to reach out to us. But since we only have a few more minutes together for this particular session, I want to have each of our panelists share any last words. So Jen, Katherine, any last words on why those attending who maybe don't have an ABLE account should consider opening one? So Katherine, I'm going to kick it over to you first.
So in the Down syndrome community, I always love a play on words with Down syndrome, right? So to me, the ultimate answer to this question is there's literally no downside, right? So it works with everything. It provides for a way for the person to save themselves. It provides for a way for you to save specifically for their needs that are tied to their disability. There's just literally no downside to doing this. And especially right now, while John's giving away money, there's literally no downside. So that's why.
Jen, what about you?
I'm with Katherine. You know, she and I are good friends, but we also think a lot alike when it comes to ABLE accounts. And, you know, to have the opportunity to provide for whatever your child might need or your loved one might need in the future, to me, is there's no other way to do it with the ease and the flexibility that the ABLE accounts have. And it's something that I was able to do, just like Katherine, set it up 15 minutes on my own. I did not need to go to Katherine's office and hire her to do this like I would a special needs trust. I could do it from home when it was the right time for me, and I can change what goes into his account as I need to.
I love that. And ladies, we so appreciate you taking the time out of your Saturday morning. It is so important for the disability community to hear from parents themselves, individuals who have walked the walk and have decided to take that first step and open an ABLE account. So we thank you so much. You all are not only just great advocates, but also dear friends of ours. So thank you so much for your expertise and sharing your stories. They're so powerful. And we love May and Sean so much. So thank you again. But we're going to head into our very first break. So if you're an attendee currently on the line, take a second, go grab a snack, go grab a refreshed cup of coffee, and we'll be back at 9:45 with A Guide to Special Needs Trust by Travis Fincham. We'll see you all soon.